Long runs of television shows are no longer the norm, but one show has been running for 40 years, Sesame Street. For more than 36 of those 40 years, this actor has performed the role of Gordon on the show. Recently, I had the opportunity to sit down with him. His name is Roscoe Orman. Let's take a look. It is day 3 at the National Black Theater Festival, and we are still standing on Black Theater holy ground. I have with me actor, writer, producer, speaker, illustrator, an icon, American's father, best known for his role of Gordon on Sesame Street, Mr. Roscoe Orman.
Hello.
Hello.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. And it's wonderful to be here with you.
Yeah, it's good to be. Yeah, absolutely. Now, almost 40 years as Gordon on Sesame Street.
Hard to believe.
It is. Most actors would cry to have a role for 40 years. You know?
Of course, I never imagined that it would go beyond 2 or 3 years when I got the job back in 1974.
But you weren't the first Gordon.
No, actually, most people don't realize there were 2 Gordons before me. Matt Robinson was the original. He was actually a writer and producer on the show, who they talked into playing a character on this experiment, which was what Sesame Street was. It was an experiment. No one ever imagined it would catch on and catch fire and then continue from year to year to year. So after 3 years of doing it, Matt said, "Wait, hold on. I'm a producer and writer." He stayed on the show as such, but then they got a second actor who lasted for 2 seasons. It didn't quite work out with him, and then that's when I came along in season 5.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah. So 37 years.
37 years.
37 years. I mean, how do you keep it fresh? You know, playing the same role for 37 years.
It's a challenge, but it's really helped by the fact that, for one thing, we tape for very short periods in a year. For only now these days, only 2 months a year in production. We do 26 new shows per season. So, you know, there's a lot of time when we're all doing other projects, and we come back and we have so much enthusiasm for coming back home.
It's like a reunion.
It's a reunion
when you
every
come
year.
back.
It's like having a reunion.
Yeah, and those be intense time, you know, cramming a whole season into like a month or 2 months.
But we've been doing it for so long that once we get into our groove, it's like, you know, it's like clockwork. We just, you know, it's all right there, you know, because, you know.
It's like riding a bicycle.
Exactly.
You're right back on it.
Exactly.
Right back
and
on
also the other aspect to Sesame Street that makes it so refreshing and so constantly renewable is that our audience changes every few years.
Yes,
it's constantly changing.
Right.
We have a whole new audience. Our original audience are parents and grandparents even. People in their 40s, you know, who grew up watching Sesame Street.
And they're just as excited, I bet, to see you, right?
And to share it with their children. Which makes it that much more special. And to see some of the same faces that they saw when they were kids.
Right, and know some of the same songs.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is awesome. That is great. But you haven't done just Sesame Street.
No.
I mean, you've done grassroots theater, you've done Broadway, you've been on the silver screen. I mean, you've done a myriad of things. Shakespeare, August Wilson. I mean, your career
I've been truly blessed.
Yes, you have been blessed. You have.
And I've continued to grow and learn and find new challenges constantly. This festival, when I first encountered it in 1997, I came here with a Woody King production of Do Lord Remember Me with Barbara Montgomery, Ebony Joanne, Glenn Turman, and Lou Myers and myself came and performed at the main stage, the premiere production that year.
What a stellar cast.
Oh my goodness. And standing ovation in that Stevens Theater, you know, I was just blown away by this whole thing. Larry Leon Hamlin's vision to have created this and to do it every 2 years and to bring such a plethora of talent and energy and creativity and from all over the country and the world.
Yes. It's international now.
It's an international theater festival. And to do a week of constant productions, I mean, there's no way that any one person can see even half of all the productions that are here.
Exactly.
You know, it's just an amazing accomplishment.
But it's also a reunion. Being here at the festival is like a reunion. Seeing people you haven't seen in I don't know how many years.
It really energizes and re-energizes us, the artists, the artistic community, in a way that nothing else can.
Yeah.
Because we're reconnecting with people that we've known for all of our lives in some cases. You know,
Yes.
people would go back, you know, many, many decades, and sometimes we've been separated by, you know, living on different coasts, opposite coasts, you know, the West Coast and the East Coast actors, or people who have gone to other regions of the country, but they come here, they gravitate and come to this festival every 2 years.
Yes.
And you never know who you're going to run into, someone you may not have seen here before.
Right, you never
This
know.
is Felicia Rashad's first time.
It's her
This
first
is Richard
time.
Lawson's first time.
Yes, yes.
These are people who, you know, are veterans who have been in the business and have become very successful, but are just discovering this for the first time.
Right.
So
Yeah.
it's wonderful.
It is. It is awesome.
I feel my job is extremely important in knowing that you've helped people out on the ground, the firefighters in particular. Just the fact that they see us up there making an effort gives them a lot of comfort. In my civilian job, I fly people from point A to point B, but in the Air Force Reserve, I get to save lives. I'm Major Mark Stewart, and very proud to be a member of the Air Force Reserve.
So you have been an actor your whole life. When did you start? How did you know you wanted to be an actor?
Well, I guess I come by my love for performing through my grandfather, who had at least a brief professional life as a vaudeville performer in the 1920s in Harlem. And he instilled in me, but just by telling me the stories of you know, his love for that experience, of the love of performing in me.
Because he was a performer.
He was a
Yes.
performer. And so he lived long enough to see me become a professional performer and to perform in a theater that he performed in, the Lafayette Theater of Harlem. I was one of the original members of the New Lafayette Theater in Harlem in the 1960s, which was on the site of the original Lafayette Theater of the 1920s, where my grandfather performed. And when he came to see me in that production,
What a moment.
you talk about a full circle.
Yes.
So, you know,
I bet he was proud.
He was just in heaven.
Yes.
You know. So I was so glad that I could share that with him.
Yeah.
You know, and of course he saw me do other things as well, but that was a very special moment. And it made me realize that this was something that I was meant to do. And I've not done anything other than the artistic work, you know, in theater, as you said, acting and directing and writing. I've written a few books, and
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
I've been able to just expand from that base, that core, that creative base, and I've had wonderful mentors, Oscar Brown Jr., Ed Bullins,
Yeah.
Robert Macbeth. I mean, people who really nurtured me and helped me to develop my craft over the years. And then I've tried to be a teacher as well.
Yes, and now you are a mentor
Yes.
for others.
Some of my students have gone on to become successful
Yes.
in the field. So.
Yes. Now your book, Sesame Street Dad, you know, the
Evolution of an Actor.
Right,
Yes.
your journey.
Yes.
What made you decide to sit down and write that?
Well, I guess the initial impetus came from my desire to share with my children some information and some sense of what I did outside of Sesame Street. Because, of course, millions of children, including my own, grew up with me as Gordon. And they
Right.
know that's, and they think that's who I am, really.
Right,
Even my own
exactly.
kids think
Right,
I'm
they
Gordon.
call you
sometimes. But I felt it was important, not only to my own children, but to that whole generation of children, to give a picture of not just my own personal journey, but the journey of the black theater and performing artists of the 1960s and 70s that I was a part of that community, and all of that evolution that occurred, important evolution that
It was
the
an
young
important
people
evolution.
now, they're standing on our shoulders. And I think it's important that they know who we were and who we are, and to really
Because
have...
black theater was civic-minded at that
Yes.
time.
Well, we came out of the civil rights era.
Yes.
You know, one of my earliest experiences was with the Free Southern Theater. When I joined a company, a troupe of actors touring the Deep South as an adjunct to the civil rights movement, which was happening throughout the Deep South, with Dr. King and all the others who I had a chance to interact with. Some of these great leaders, you know, Andrew Young and Stokely Carmichael and all these people who were there. And we, as the creative, artistic component of the movement, were equally as dedicated as those civil rights workers, and sometimes at great risk to our lives as well. Yes. So those years were tremendously important, not just to us, but to the entire country.
Right. Because you're using theater to enlighten people.
To enlighten and to teach and to inspire.
Yeah, absolutely. That is so great. What a great thing.
And actually coming back here to a southern town, you know, in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, you know, where so much of that movement took place as well during those years, and to see that this, compared to what was even imaginable back then, this could never have even been thought of as a possibility in the 1960s, to do this kind of, you know, expression and coming together and celebrating the black arts.
Right, because the theaters were more separate in the 60s.
They were all
right, and very competitive at that
yes,
time.
very competitive,
yes.
and existed under great duress. You know, I mean, it was very few of them from that period are still around. Free Southern Theater no longer exists.
But isn't the New Federal Theater?
The New Federal Theater is probably the longest running continually producing theater. It was founded in 1968 by Woody King Jr.
Yes.
And we just recently celebrated his 40th anniversary. Actually, it's been more than 40 years that he's been around and continually.
Yes, he's an icon himself.
He's
the godfather. And I hope to sit down with him as well.
Oh, you must.
Absolutely.
You must. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, you have a few projects in development right
yes,
now.
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Well, one of them, which I had the pleasure of reading, and you took part in that as well,
yes.
of a new play by Lawrence Holder, based on the life of Colin Powell.
Right.
Who is an American icon who I think people really know very little about in terms of his own because he's a very private kind of person, but has had a tremendous impact on the public discourse politically in the past 10 years as a player in several administrations, political administrations, and of course, as we all know, he was very instrumental in having Barack Obama be successful.
Exactly.
In his bid for the presidency.
Right.
So he's someone who I think people will really be interested in getting the inside scoop on, and to really understand what makes him tick, even now.
Yeah.
So that's an exciting project.
Very good. And you have another one?
There's another one that my good friend Richard Wesley is developing now in its early stages, based on the life of Nelson Mandela, which is a role I would absolutely.
That would be a great
That would be a crowning achievement for
yes.
me. So I'm very excited to continue, you know, developing and growing and doing new projects.
Right. And now you have your own production company too.
Yes, I do.
Yes, Brown Orman.
Yes, Brown Orman and 21st Century Marketing, both companies that produce. But people can go on my website, RoscoeOrman.com, and get a look at all the various projects.
Well, you have had a wonderful career. You really have. You are truly blessed.
Yes, I am.
And we are blessed that you have taken the time to be with us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so very much.
We want to thank everyone that took the time to sit down and talk with us today. If you're lively and want to be on our Hot Topics panel and add your 2 cents, send us a message on our Facebook page. And we want to thank you for tuning in. Remember, when you're in the eye, you know you're in the know. Closing out the eye, we'll have a performance from Andrea Durham with an excerpt from her mid-year National Championship dramatic interpretation piece, Miss Andrea Durham.
Dr. Gerald Walters once theorized that one will not find peace by trying to escape their problems, rather by confronting them courageously. It is through confrontation in which we diminish fear, for fear only exists in inaction. In the stage play The Kink in My Hair by Trey Anderson, Patsy confronts her greatest fear and forces us to ask the question, is confrontation the gateway to freedom? The Kink in My Hair by Trey Anderson. Joanna, I want to thank you for allowing us to be here today. My husband and I, we forever grateful for this opportunity. And if you don't mind, I'd like to address the court first. Romy, he always used to tell me, Mom, you worry too much. Ain't nothing ever gonna happen to me. And then he would smile, that easy, slow smile that crept across his beautiful face. And those eyes, eyes that always let me know that boy was up to something, like taking 4 cookies instead of 2. Like trying to change that C- on his report card to some messed up looking A. Or trying to sneak up in my house at 2 a.m. Romy, he had us all fooled. Changed all the clocks back in the house so that I wouldn't know that he was late. Until I show up for work one morning and they telling me I'm an hour and a half late for work. But that was Romy for you, ladies and gentlemen. Always trying to get away with something. And the last thing I said to him was I said, be home by 12. And I'm real mad with myself, because I should have told him that I loved him so much, because one minute he was standing in the parking lot and he was talking to Deanna, and the next minute there was a bang. And Romy, he fell to the ground. And by the time the police got there, the only people left in the parking lot was Damien and Mr. Rowland. Mr. Rowland, he's Romy's history. He was Romy's history teacher. And he took his jacket off and he placed it over top of Romy to keep him warm. And at the funeral, I thanked him for that. Try and keep my baby warm. And some days later, the police claimed that they was doing all they could, but nobody knew who did it, and nobody knew why, and nobody was talking about it. There were no witnesses. Nearly 200 kids in a school parking lot, and there were no witnesses. But we know now. We know that it was that man who killed my son. You shot him 3 times, and my baby is gone. You can't just kill people's sons just because. And every morning when you wake up in your prison cell, I want you to remember this face, Romy's face, and know that you had a chance to change your actions that night. I'm